Then I want to come back to this proposed principle one and ask Professor Eichler what's his view whether amending the framework, I appreciate for the pilot is not under discussion whether we should amend the framework, but whether amending the framework may help. And I'm thinking, for instance, about changing the risk-benefit profile formally, or continuing the discussion, which I think we initiated at the EMEA in London, about the data protection, when the clock should start under the data protection clock should start, and whether it could start, for instance, when certain conditions are fulfilled or not. So, in other words, whether looking forward in the future, a change to the framework may help addressing some legitimate objectives, I think, which are proposed by industry, but of course it's not the only objective.
So I'm not sure what you mean by framework. If you mean by framework legislation, my view is that by and large, the current pharmaceutical, I'm talking about the European pharmaceutical legislation, would allow us to do all of that we have been discussing. Basically, the legislation says the benefits should outweigh the risks. I mean, come on, would you want to change that? No, I don't think anybody wants. But it does not say how much uncertainty is tolerable, what kinds. We don't even have the US statute that says adequately controlled trials. We have nothing in our legislation. Shows that the drug works, but how you show that is up to us. So we have a lot of freedom and room for maneuver that maybe we haven't been using. Maybe it's about better making use of the freedom we have. Could there be areas where the current legislation gives us difficulties? Maybe. I hear some colleagues talk about the orphan situation. It's very specific. I don't want to bring it up here. There could be sort of a friction here. You mentioned the exclusivity period. I understand that some companies are of the view that that could be an issue. Yes, it should be discussed. We have it in that project that Luc described briefly. It would be looked at. I hear other companies saying, forget it, this is so far downstream that by the time we come there, it's so discounted that it doesn't change the net present value. Be that as it may. So I think, yes, we have to look at the legislation, but I don't see as that being the major breaking point. There may be other legislations. Certain European member states have relatively new legislation about reimbursement that is far more specific, and that speaks about what the comparator has to be, etc. That may be far more difficult to address than the overall pharmaceutical.